Commander Vethril stood at the window of his office and watched the transport ship descend through the orange clouds of Kareth Prime. The vessel was small and unremarkable, carrying only a handful of passengers from the outer systems. But today's arrival was different. Today, the ship carried something the Galactic Defense Academy had never seen before: a human. He turned away from the window and looked at the data pad on his desk. The file was thin. Sarah Chen, age 28 by Earth years, former military instructor from a place called Fort Benning. The photograph showed a woman with dark hair and calm eyes. Nothing special, nothing threatening. Vethril had trained warriors from 37 species across 4 spiral arms of the galaxy. He had seen the razor-clawed Vorthan and the poison-blooded Kelari. He had watched Grundok berserkers tear through training dummies made of reinforced steel. This human looked like she could be broken by a strong wind. The Academy had received the request 6 months ago. The human government wanted to send exchange students to learn from the galaxy's finest combat instructors. In return, they offered their own knowledge and technology. The Council had agreed, mostly out of curiosity. Humans were new to the galactic community. They had only made first contact 8 years ago, and they had kept to themselves since then. Their ships were slower than most. Their weapons were crude. Their bodies were soft and fragile. Nobody understood why they wanted to join a combat program. Vethril walked to his mirror and checked his appearance. His blue-gray skin was smooth and clean. His forearms were thick with muscle, each one strong enough to crush titanium alloy. His eyes, all 6 of them, were sharp and focused. He was considered handsome by his people's standards and terrifying by everyone else's. He had earned his position through 40 years of combat experience and 3 wars. He did not lose. He did not fail. And he did not believe in wasting time on students who could not succeed. The other instructors had laughed when they heard about the human exchange program. Master Korvax, who taught blade combat, had made jokes about humans being suitable only for target practice. Instructor Yeleth, the close-quarters specialist, had wondered if humans would cry during the first training session. Even the commandant had smiled and suggested that Vethril should be gentle with the new arrival. Nobody expected the human to last more than a week. Vethril did not laugh. He was not cruel by nature, but he was practical. The Academy had standards. Every recruit who walked through those doors had to pass the orientation assessment. It was a simple test. Survive 30 seconds of combat with an instructor, nothing more. The test was not designed to cause serious injury. It was designed to measure reflexes, determination, and potential. Most species could manage it. The weak ones were sent home with kind words and no shame. The strong ones were admitted to the program. He had already decided that the human would be sent home. It was not personal. It was simply the logical outcome. Humans had no natural weapons, no claws, no fangs, no armor plating, no venom glands, no redundant organs. Their eyes could not see in the dark. Their ears could not hear high frequencies. They could not regenerate lost limbs or survive in vacuum. By every measure, they were one of the weakest species in the known galaxy. Admitting Sarah Chen to the combat program would be setting her up for failure. Washing her out quickly would be a kindness. A chime sounded at his door. He pressed the panel, and his assistant stepped inside. The young Kelari bowed his head respectfully. "Commander, the transport has landed. The human has arrived. Send her to Training Hall 7. I will conduct the orientation assessment myself." The assistant hesitated. "Yourself, Commander, that is unusual. I want to handle this personally. There will be many eyes watching today, many opinions forming. I want to ensure that the assessment is fair and properly documented." The assistant nodded and left. Vethril picked up his training gear and made his way through the Academy's winding corridors. Students from a dozen different species stepped aside as he passed. They knew him by reputation. They knew that he had never been defeated in a training match. They knew that his record was perfect. Training Hall 7 was one of the smaller facilities, designed for individual assessments rather than group exercises. When Vethril arrived, he found a crowd already gathering. Word had spread quickly. Instructors and students lined the observation galleries, their faces showing everything from amusement to curiosity. The Vorthan shock troops whispered to each other, their clawed hands gesturing dismissively. A group of Kalari blade dancers watched with cold interest. In the corner, a massive Grundok sat alone, his scarred face showing nothing at all. Vethril stepped onto the training floor and waited. The doors opened, and Sarah Chen walked in. She was smaller than he expected. Her head barely reached his chest. She wore simple gray clothing and carried nothing. Her dark hair was pulled back from her face. Her expression was calm and polite, like someone arriving at a business meeting rather than a combat assessment. She looked around the hall, taking in the alien faces that stared down at her from every direction. If she felt afraid, she did not show it. Commander Vethril, her voice was soft but clear. I am Commander Vethril. You are Sarah Chen, the human exchange student. Yes, sir. Thank you for meeting with me personally. He studied her for a moment. Her posture was relaxed. Her breathing was steady. Her hands hung loose at her sides. There was nothing remarkable about her at all. Do you understand the purpose of this assessment? I was told I need to survive 30 seconds of combat to be admitted to the program. That is correct. The assessment will begin when I say begin. It will end when I say end or when you are unable to continue. Do you have any questions? Sarah Chen tilted her head slightly. Should I remove my jacket? Someone in the gallery laughed. Vethril did not. That will not be necessary. This will be brief. He settled into his combat stance, all four arms raised, his weight balanced on his powerful legs. The gallery fell silent. Everyone leaned forward to watch. They all knew what was coming. They had seen it dozens of times before. The commander's first strike was legendary. It came without warning, faster than most species could track. It ended assessments before they truly began. Sarah Chen stood across from him, still and patient, waiting. Vethril took a breath. He did not say begin. He simply struck. The strike was perfect. 40 years of training and 3 wars had made Vethril's movements as natural as breathing. His primary right fist cut through the air at a speed that no ordinary being could follow. The motion was smooth and controlled, designed to test reflexes rather than kill. But it was still fast enough to knock most recruits unconscious before they understood what had happened. His fist stopped in midair. Something had caught it. Vethril looked down and saw Sarah Chen's hand wrapped around his wrist. Her fingers were small against his blue-gray skin. Her grip was firm but not aggressive. She held him the way someone might hold a door handle, casually and without effort. She looked up at him with an expression of mild confusion. "Oh," she said, "have we started?" The training hall had never been so quiet. Every voice in the gallery died at once. The Vorthan stopped whispering. The Kalari stopped moving. Even the massive Grundok leaned forward, his scarred face showing something that might have been surprise. Vethril stared at the human. His mind struggled to process what had happened. He had not announced the start of the match. He had struck without warning, as he always did. No recruit had ever caught his first blow, not once in 40 years. The Vorthan could not do it. The Kalari could not do it. The Grundok could not do it. This small, soft, unremarkable human had done it while asking if they had started. He pulled his arm back. Her grip released smoothly, without resistance. "We have started," he said. His voice was steady, but something had changed in his eyes. Sarah Chen nodded. "All right, thank you for letting me know." She did not shift into a combat stance. She did not raise her fists or lower her center of gravity. She simply stood there, watching him with those calm, dark eyes, waiting for whatever came next. Vethril attacked again. This time he used all 4 arms. His primary hand struck high while his secondary hand swept low. It was a combination that had defeated warriors twice his size. The attacks came from multiple angles at once. Too fast and too complex for any single target to block completely. Someone would have to sacrifice something, take a hit to avoid a worse hit, accept pain to create an opening. Sarah did not sacrifice anything. She moved like water flowing around stones. Her body twisted and turned, slipping between his strikes with centimeters to spare. She did not block his attacks. She simply was not where they landed. Her feet stepped in patterns he did not recognize, carrying her through gaps that should not have existed. Pressed harder, he increased his speed. He added feints and misdirections. He tested her left side, then her right. He attacked high, then low, then high again. Every technique he knew, every trick he had learned in 40 years of combat, he threw at her in rapid succession. She avoided everything. And she was studying him. He could see it in her eyes. She was not just reacting. She was watching his movements, learning his patterns, understanding how he fought. She was treating the combat assessment like a lesson, and he was the teaching material. The gallery had begun to murmur, heard the confused voices but ignored them. He was too focused on the impossible thing happening in front of him. The 30-second mark had passed, then the 1-minute mark, then 2 minutes. The human had not just survived, she had not been touched at all. He stopped attacking and stepped back. His breathing was heavier than usual, not from exhaustion but from surprise. "You have passed the assessment," he said. "You may stop now." Sarah tilted her head. "Is that all? I thought there might be more." "That is all. You have demonstrated sufficient ability." She nodded politely. "Thank you, Commander. I hope I did not disappoint." Disappoint. The word echoed in mind. This human, this soft and fragile creature from a world of weak gravity and simple technology, had just performed something that his best students could not match, and she was worried about disappointing him. The gallery was no longer murmuring. It was buzzing with conversation. Saw instructors turning to each other with wide eyes. He saw students pointing at the human with disbelief. He saw the standing up from his seat, his massive body blocking the view of those behind him, his face twisted into an expression that had never seen before. Interest. Genuine interest. Sarah seemed unaware of the attention. She looked around the hall with the same calm expression she had worn when she arrived. "Is there somewhere I should go now? I was told there would be housing assignments after the assessment." Forced his voice to remain professional. "My assistant will show you to your quarters. Report to Training Hall 3 tomorrow morning at the 6th hour. You will begin the regular program with the other recruits." "Thank you, Commander." She bowed her head slightly. "I look forward to learning from you." She walked toward the exit. The crowd parted to let her pass. Nobody spoke to her. Nobody touched her. They simply watched her leave as if she were some strange animal that had wandered into their midst. When the doors closed behind her, the hall exploded with noise. "What was that? Did you see her move?" "She caught his first strike." "That is impossible. I have watched the commander train for 15 years. Nobody catches his first strike." Master pushed through the crowd, his blade dancer's body moving with nervous energy. "Commander, what happened? What is that creature?" Did not answer. He was looking at his wrist, at the place where her small fingers had gripped him. There were no marks, no bruises. She had held him with exactly enough force to stop his movement and nothing more. Perfect control, perfect precision. He remembered her question. "Have we started?" She had caught his fastest strike, the attack that had ended 100 assessments, and she had not even known the match had begun. She had done it casually, without thinking, without trying. What would happen if she actually tried? They approached him. The massive warrior towered over everyone in the hall, his body covered in the scars of 100 battles. His name was, and he was considered one of the most dangerous students in the Academy's history. He had killed his first enemy at age 6. He had survived wounds that would have killed lesser beings. He feared nothing and no one. He looked at with something new in his eyes. "Commander," he said, "I want to fight her." That is not how the program works. Students do not choose their sparring partners. I do not care about the program. I want to fight the human. His voice was quiet, almost respectful. I want to understand what she is. Shook his head. Return to your quarters, all of you. He raised his voice so the entire gallery could hear. What happened today does not leave this building. I will speak with the commandant. Until then, you will say nothing about the human's performance. That is an order. The crowd dispersed slowly, reluctantly, still talking in whispers. Waited until the hall was empty. Then he walked to the center of the training floor and stood in the exact spot where Sarah had caught his wrist. He looked at his hands, 4 arms, each one capable of crushing titanium, each one trained for 40 years in the art of war. A human had stopped him with one hand while asking if the match had started. For the first time in his long career, Commander felt something he barely recognized. Uncertainty. The weeks that followed changed everything thought he knew about teaching. Sarah arrived at Training Hall 3 every morning at the 6th hour, exactly as instructed. She wore the same simple clothing. She carried nothing. She spoke politely to everyone she met, including the students who whispered behind her back and the instructors who watched her with suspicious eyes. And she learned. That was the thing that bothered the most. She did not simply practice the techniques he demonstrated. She absorbed them. She understood them. She improved upon them. The first week, he taught the basic defensive positions used by the. These were ancient forms, developed over thousands of years, designed for beings with flexible spines and double-jointed limbs. Sarah's body was not built for these positions. She should have struggled. She should have needed months of practice to approximate the movements. She mastered them in 3 days. The second week, he introduced striking patterns. These relied on the natural curve of the claws and the rotation of their triple-jointed shoulders. Human hands were not shaped like claws. Human shoulders did not work the same way. Sarah adapted the techniques to her own body. She modified the angles. She adjusted the timing. By the end of the week, she was performing strikes that looked different from the style but achieved the same results. Master watched one of her practice sessions and walked away without speaking. The third week, she asked permission to spar with the other students. Hesitated. The other students were dangerous. The shock troops were bred for violence. The blade dancers were precise and deadly. They were massive and brutal. Putting Sarah in the ring with any of them seemed like asking for disaster. But she had asked, and the rules of the academy said that any student who completed the orientation assessment could request sparring partners. He assigned her to fight, a young who had placed 3rd in the last academy tournament. Was fast, aggressive, and confident. He walked onto the training floor with his claws extended and his teeth showing. "Try not to break, human," he said. "I will go easy on you." Sarah smiled politely. "Thank you, I appreciate that." The match lasted 40 seconds. Attacked with the full speed of his species, his claws swept through the air in patterns designed to overwhelm and confuse. He was faster than, he was younger and more aggressive. He held nothing back. Sarah caught his first attack, redirected his momentum, and put him on the ground before he understood what was happening. Then she helped him stand up and asked if he was injured. He was not injured, but he was finished. He bowed his head, left the training floor, and refused to speak about the match for the rest of the day. Word spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. The human had defeated, the human who looked like nothing, the human with soft skin and no claws and no natural weapons. She had beaten a shock troop in 40 seconds and then asked if he was okay. More students requested to spar with her, approved the requests, partly out of curiosity and partly because he had no legitimate reason to refuse. The results were always the same. A Kelari blade dancer lasted 1 minute and 12 seconds. Sarah Chen disarmed her 3 times, returned her weapon each time, and finally ended the match with a gentle throw that left the Kelari sitting on the floor, unharmed and confused. A pair of Drexian twins who always fought together lasted 2 minutes. Sarah Chen handled them simultaneously, never attacking but always controlling, until they both yielded from exhaustion. Torath, the Grundok who had demanded to fight her on the first day, got his wish in the 4th week. The entire academy came to watch. Training Hall 3 was filled beyond capacity. Students stood in the corridors. Instructors watched from the observation galleries. Even the commandant came down from his office, his old face showing nothing but sharp attention. Torath was the largest student in the academy. His species was known for their strength and their love of battle. They felt no fear. They showed no mercy. They fought until they won or died. Torath had never lost a match. Not once. Not ever. He stood across from Sarah Chen, his massive body blocking the light. "Human," he said, "I have waited for this." "I hope I can give you a good match," she replied. The fight began without ceremony. Torath charged forward like a mountain moving. His fists were the size of her head. His arms were thick as tree trunks. A single blow from him could crush stone. Sarah Chen did not run. She did not retreat. She stepped toward him. What happened next lasted 4 minutes and 12 seconds. The recording of the match would be studied at the academy for the next 2 centuries. Torath attacked with everything he had, every strike, every technique, every ounce of his massive strength. He swung and smashed and grabbed and threw. The training floor cracked under his footsteps. The air itself seemed to shake with the force of his movements. Sarah Chen moved through his attacks like wind through a forest. She did not block him. She guided him. She touched his arms and shoulders and hips, redirecting his force, turning his strength against itself. She made him miss by centimeters. She made him stumble over his own feet. She controlled the distance and the rhythm and the timing, always 1 step ahead, always exactly where she needed to be. And she was not even breathing hard. After 3 minutes, Torath began to slow. His massive body was not built for extended combat. His species won quickly or not at all. But the human would not let him win quickly. She kept moving, kept dodging, kept redirecting, until his attacks became clumsy and slow. At 4 minutes, she struck for the first time. It was a single palm strike to the center of his chest. Not hard, not violent, just precise. Torath staggered backward, lost his balance, and fell. He did not get up. The hall was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The Grundok lay on the cracked training floor, his massive chest heaving, his eyes staring at the ceiling. He was not unconscious. He was not injured. He was simply unable to continue. Sarah Chen walked over to him and offered her hand. "That was a good match," she said. "You are very strong." Torath looked at her hand. Then he looked at her face. Then he did something that nobody in the academy had ever seen him do. He laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that shook the floor. He took her hand and let her help him stand. His massive body towered over her, but somehow she seemed larger. "Human," he said, "what are you?" Sarah Chen smiled. "Just a person trying to learn." Vethril watched from the edge of the training floor. His hands were shaking. He had just witnessed something impossible. A human, a creature from a backwater world with no natural weapons and no special abilities, had just defeated the most dangerous student in the academy. And she had been gentle about it. She had not hurt him. She had not humiliated him. She had simply been better in every way that mattered, and then she had helped him up and told him he was strong. He needed answers. He needed to understand what he was dealing with. The commandant was already walking toward him, his old face showing the same confusion that Vethril felt. Something was very wrong. Or perhaps something was very right. He could not tell the difference anymore. The classified briefing happened 3 days after the Torath match. Vethril sat in the commandant's private office, surrounded by holographic displays that filled the air with data. The room was sealed. The windows were darkened. Only 3 people were present: Vethril, the commandant, and a human military attaché named Colonel Marcus Webb. Colonel Webb was an older human with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple uniform with no decorations. He spoke in a quiet, calm voice that reminded Vethril of Sarah Chen. "I apologize for the confusion," the colonel said. "We should have prepared you better for what to expect." The commandant leaned forward in his chair. His species was ancient and wise, with long memories and careful thoughts. He had led the academy for 60 years. He had seen many things, but his eyes showed something new today, something like concern. "Explain," the commandant said. "What is Sarah Chen? Is she modified, enhanced, some kind of special operative?" Colonel Webb shook his head. "She is a normal human, completely normal. No modifications, no enhancements, no special training beyond what we teach all our soldiers." "That is not possible," Vethril said. "She defeated every student we put against her. She defeated a Grundok berserker. She caught my first strike without knowing the match had started. Normal beings do not do these things." "Normal beings from your worlds do not do these things," the colonel corrected gently. "But humans are not from your worlds. We evolved differently. Our planet shaped us in ways that you may find difficult to understand." He touched a control panel and the holographic displays changed. They showed a blue and green world with white clouds and deep oceans. Earth, the human homeworld. "This is where we come from. It looks peaceful, does it not? Beautiful, even. But it is one of the most dangerous environments in the known galaxy." Vethril studied the planet. It did look peaceful, soft, welcoming. "Our gravity is strong," the colonel continued. "Stronger than most civilized worlds. Every human is born carrying weight that would crush the bones of many species. We grow strong because we have no choice. Our muscles and our hearts and our lungs all develop under constant pressure." New images appeared. Strange creatures with sharp teeth and powerful bodies. Animals that Vethril did not recognize. "Our world is filled with predators, creatures that hunt and kill. For millions of years, our ancestors survived by being better hunters than the things that wanted to eat them. We developed something that your scientists have been studying since first contact. We call it endurance predation." "Explain this term," the commandant said. "Our ancestors could not outrun their prey. They could not overpower it with strength, so they developed a different strategy. They chased their prey for hours, days sometimes. They followed the tracks and the signs until their prey collapsed from exhaustion. Then they killed it." The colonel's eyes were steady. "Humans can run for entire days without stopping. We can ignore pain that would incapacitate other species. We can keep functioning with injuries that should kill us. Because our ancestors, who could not do these things, did not survive long enough to have children." The holographic displays changed again. They showed biological data, heart rates, oxygen consumption, muscle density, chemical compounds. "This is adrenaline," the colonel said, highlighting one compound. "It is a hormone that our bodies produce in dangerous situations. It increases our strength, speed, and pain tolerance. It allows us to fight through wounds that would stop us under normal circumstances. Other species have similar hormones, but ours is particularly powerful." Vethril thought about Sarah Chen's calm expression during her matches, her steady breathing, her polite questions. She did not seem to be experiencing this adrenaline response. "No," the colonel agreed. "She was not, because she was not in danger. She was not even trying very hard." He paused to let that sink in. The readings from her biological monitors during the Toreth match showed elevated heart rate and mild perspiration. By human standards, this is equivalent to light exercise, a morning jog, a warm-up routine. The room was silent. Vethril felt cold despite the comfortable temperature. "She was not fighting at full capacity," the commandant said slowly. "She was not fighting at combat capacity at all. She was practicing, learning. Studying your techniques and your students." The colonel's voice remained calm. Sarah Chen is a skilled fighter by human standards, but she is not exceptional. She would rank in the middle tier of our special operations community. There are many humans who could do what she did. Some could do it better. Vethril thought about the implications. If Sarah Chen was average for her species, if she was merely competent, if she had been holding back the entire time. "Why did you send her?" he asked. "Why send someone so dangerous to our academy?" "She is not dangerous," the colonel said. "She is careful, she is trained. She has been specifically instructed to be gentle with your students and staff." He smiled slightly. "Our government wanted the exchange program to succeed. We did not want to cause diplomatic incidents, so we asked our volunteers to hold back, to learn without hurting, to show respect for your traditions and your methods." "Hold back," Vethril repeated. "She has been holding back." "Yes. Against Torath, against the Vorthan, against me." "Yes." The commandant made a sound that might have been a sigh. What would happen if she did not hold back? Colonel Webb was quiet for a moment. His tired eyes showed something that looked like memory, old memory, heavy memory. "Humans fight wars," he said finally. "We have fought them for as long as our species has existed, against animals, against each other, against everything that threatened us. We are very good at fighting. We are very good at surviving. We are very good at winning." He looked at Vethril directly. "If Sarah Chen did not hold back, she would hurt your students. She might kill them. Not because she is cruel, but because our full combat response is designed for situations where survival is not guaranteed. It is not meant for training matches. It is meant for real battles where everything is at stake." Vethril remembered the assessment, the speed of his strike, the certainty that he would win, the small hand that had closed around his wrist and stopped him completely. "She caught my first blow," he said. "I did not announce the start of the match. I gave no warning." "Humans are ambush predators as well as pursuit predators," the colonel explained. "Our reflexes are designed to respond to sudden threats. We do not need warnings. We do not need time to prepare. Our bodies react before our conscious minds understand what is happening." He shrugged. "Sarah probably caught your arm before she realized she was doing it. It was instinct, reflex, nothing more." Nothing more. Vethril thought about those words. Catching the fastest strike in the academy was nothing more than reflex to a human. Defeating a Grundok berserker was light exercise. Mastering alien combat techniques in days was simply learning. What had they invited into their academy? The commandant spoke slowly. "You said there are humans who are better fighters than Sarah Chen." "Yes. Much better. Our elite soldiers train from childhood. They study every form of combat. They push their bodies to the absolute limits of human capability and then find ways to push further." The colonel's voice was matter of fact. "The best of them can do things that Sarah Chen cannot imagine. They can survive injuries that would kill ordinary humans. They can fight for days without sleep. They can adapt to any weapon, any environment, any opponent." He paused. "We have kept these soldiers away from the Galactic community. We did not want to frighten anyone." Vethril stood up from his chair. His legs felt unsteady. His mind was full of images that he did not want to examine. "I need time to think about this." The colonel nodded sympathetically. "Of course, I understand this is difficult to process." He stood as well and offered his hand in the human gesture of respect. "For what it is worth, we genuinely want this exchange program to work. Humans have much to learn from your academy. Your techniques are beautiful. Your traditions are worthy of study. We hope to be good students and good allies." Vethril looked at the human hand, small, soft, ordinary. He thought about what that hand could do if its owner stopped holding back. He did not shake it. He could not make himself move. The colonel lowered his hand without offense. "I will be available if you have more questions." He walked to the door and stopped. "One more thing. Sarah has asked permission to visit the Academy's memorial garden. She wants to pay respect to your fallen warriors. I hope that is acceptable." The commandant nodded slowly. It is acceptable. The colonel left. The door closed behind him. Vethril and the commandant sat in silence for a long time. Finally, the commandant spoke. What do we do now? Vethril had no answer. Vethril found Sarah Chen in the memorial garden at sunset. The garden was built on a cliff overlooking the orange seas of Kareth Prime. Stone monuments rose from the ground like ancient trees, each one carved with the names of warriors who had graduated from the academy and died in service. There were thousands of names, millions, if you counted the smaller stones hidden in the shadows. Sarah stood before a monument dedicated to the Kelari who had fallen in the Third Border War. Her head was bowed. Her hands were clasped in front of her. She looked small against the massive stone, small and quiet and alone. Vethril approached slowly. His footsteps made no sound on the soft grass, but she turned to face him anyway. Her dark eyes were calm. There was no surprise in them, no fear. "Commander," she said, "I hope I am not intruding. This garden is open to all students." She nodded and turned back to the monument. So many names, so many lives given in service. War demands sacrifice. Yes, it does. Her voice was soft. Humans have monuments like this. We have walls covered with names, fields filled with stones. We remember our dead because they deserve to be remembered. Vethril stood beside her and looked at the carved names, warriors he had trained, students he had watched grow from uncertain recruits into proud soldiers. Many of them had died young. Many had died far from home. All of them had died fighting for something they believed in. "I spoke with Colonel Webb," he said. "I know, he told me about the briefing. He told us what humans are, what you are capable of." Sarah Chen was quiet for a moment. The orange sun reflected off the sea, painting the sky in colors that Vethril had seen 10,000 times but suddenly seemed new. "Are you afraid of me now, Commander?" He considered the question carefully. "I do not know." "That is honest." She turned to face him fully. Her expression was serious. "I want you to understand something. I am not here to frighten anyone. I am not here to prove that humans are superior. I am here because I believe in learning. I believe in growth. I believe that different species can teach each other things that they could never discover alone. You have learned our techniques faster than any student I have ever trained. Your techniques are brilliant. They come from centuries of experience and wisdom, but they are also limited by assumptions about what bodies can do, what minds can process, what spirits can endure." She smiled slightly. "Humans have different assumptions. We push boundaries that other species do not know exist, not because we are better, but because we are different." Vethril thought about his career, 40 years of teaching, thousands of students, countless battles won and lost. He had believed that he understood combat, that he had seen everything worth seeing. He had been wrong. "I have decided to request a transfer," he said. Sarah Chen looked at him with surprise. "A transfer? Why?" "I am not suited to train humans. I do not understand your species. I do not understand your capabilities. I would be useless as your instructor." "Commander," her voice was gentle but firm, "you are the finest instructor I have ever met." He shook his head. "You defeated my best student in 4 minutes. You caught my fastest strike without realizing the match had started. I have nothing to teach you." "That is not true." She stepped closer to him. "You taught me the Kelari defensive forms. They are beautiful. They flow like water. I had never seen anything like them before I came to this academy. You taught me the Vorthan striking patterns. They are precise and deadly. Your people have developed techniques over thousands of years that my species is only beginning to understand. But you adapted them, changed them, made them better." "I made them different, not better, just different." She held his gaze steadily. "Humans are good at adapting. It is how we survived our world. We take what we learn and we adjust it to fit our needs, but we cannot adjust what we have not learned. We need teachers like you to show us what exists, to share the wisdom of your people, to give us foundations that we can build upon. Vethril was silent. The sunset was deepening, turning the sky from orange to purple. You truly believe that? I believe that the galaxy is vast and filled with wonders. I believe that no single species has all the answers. I believe that we grow stronger by learning from each other, not by competing. She glanced back at the memorial stone. I believe that the warriors whose names are carved on these monuments would want their knowledge to live on, to spread, to help others become better than they were. He thought about the names on the stone, students he had trained, friends he had lost, warriors who had trusted him to prepare them for battle. Had he prepared them well enough? Had he taught them everything he knew? The honest answer was no. He had held back. He had followed tradition. He had taught the techniques that were considered proper, in the order that was considered proper, at the pace that was considered proper. He had never questioned whether proper was enough. I watched your match with Torath, he said slowly. You could have ended it in seconds. You could have hurt him, humiliated him, but you did not. Torath is a great warrior. He deserves respect. You gave him 4 minutes of combat. You let him show his skills. You let him fight with everything he had. And then you ended it gently, without injury, without shame. He needed to understand that he could be defeated without being destroyed. That losing is not the end of everything. That there is honor in fighting well, even when victory is not possible. Vethril stared at her. That is what I should teach my students. It is what you already teach them, in every lesson, in every correction, in every word of encouragement. She smiled. I learned it from watching you, Commander. I just applied it in my own way. The sun had set completely now. The stars were appearing one by one, filling the purple sky with points of light. Somewhere out there, among those stars, was Earth, the human homeworld, a place of crushing gravity and endless predators, a place that had shaped a species of unimaginable resilience. And here stood one of them, small, soft, ordinary-looking, telling him that she had learned from him. I will not request the transfer, Vethril said finally. I am glad. But I want to learn from you as well. I want to understand how humans think, how you train, how you adapt. Sarah Chen extended her hand in the human gesture of agreement. I would be honored to teach you, Commander, if you are willing to teach me in return. He looked at her hand, small and soft and ordinary. He knew what it could do now. He knew the strength hidden inside it. He knew the centuries of evolution that had shaped it into something dangerous. But he also knew something else. He knew that Sarah Chen had come to his academy to learn, not to conquer. He knew that she respected his traditions and his students and his fallen warriors. He knew that she saw value in things that she could have dismissed as inferior. Humans were not just predators, they were students. They were allies, they were friends if you gave them the chance. He took her hand and shook it firmly. Welcome to the Galactic Defense Academy, Sarah Chen. I look forward to learning together. She smiled. It was a warm smile full of genuine happiness. So do I, Commander, so do I. They walked back toward the academy buildings together, two warriors from different worlds, united by a shared desire to grow. Behind them, the memorial stones stood silent in the starlight, watching over the garden like ancient guardians. Somewhere in the galaxy, new battles were being fought. New warriors were being tested. New challenges were arising that would require strength and wisdom and courage to overcome. But in that moment, on that cliff under those stars, something new had begun. A partnership, a friendship, a bridge between species that had never met before. Vethril did not know where it would lead. He did not know what the future held. But for the first time in 40 years, he was excited to find out.